Okay, good morning and hi everyone. My name is Misha. For those who don't know me, I'm going to be hosting the sessions for Temple Anche Shalom's Breakfast Club's Next Generation series. So this is the second of 5 of our amazing sessions. Today is actually National Sibling Day. I'm really excited to be chatting with the guy who made me a big sister. Nathan Apel has been passionate about crypto from the start. And it's one of the major topics of conversation when we're all at home. Maybe today is the day that I'm going to change career paths and get, with all the great knowledge he's going to impart upon all of us. So Nathan's been in the crypto space since 2016. He started flipping NFTs, which I've learned recently are non-fungible tokens, in October, and helped several projects with community management and technical write-ups. He's worked in play to earn, blockchain, and software sales, and he managed 400 axes and 100 scholars. I don't know what that is, so I'm looking forward to him telling us. He's also worked with several NFT projects to help with community management and technical writing. Nathan's currently pursuing an MBA at York Entrepreneurship Development Institute. And Nathan today is going to be joining us to give a bit of an introduction to blockchain and cryptocurrency. So please join me in asking questions throughout the presentation because I know we're all going to be learning something new together. So without further ado, Nathan, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that intro, Misha. And good morning to everybody. I'm really excited to be here and to present to you an intro to cryptocurrency and blockchain. I guess you can kind of take this as like a crypto 101 course. I'm really passionate about this space. As Misha said, I've been trading crypto since 2016 and NFTs more recently since October. I did my best to make an unbiased presentation, but it's worth acknowledging where my biases lie, which I guess would be kind of pro crypto. But I will show the other side to show kind of what opponents to crypto say. I'm not a technical expert, but I'll do my best to answer questions accurately. And if I don't know the answer, I'll either point you in the right direction or get back to you on it. Feel free to ask questions whenever you'd like. I think that Misha will help keep me honest about answering them throughout the presentation. And also, if I address the question later on in my presentation, don't feel bad. I'll postpone answering your question until then. There also will be a Q&A period at the end, so feel free to save any questions that you might have. We don't have a ton of time, so I couldn't put everything here. So if there's something that you're interested in, specifically NFTs is something I don't really talk about, we can talk about it at the end. Okay, so I'm going to be going over doing a quick intro to blockchain and crypto. I'll go over some definitions, just so you guys know what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain. I'm going to go into cryptography and how cryptocurrency uses cryptography to keep it secure. I'm going to go over different types of cryptocurrencies. Mainly, I'll be focusing on Bitcoin, but I'll talk about some of the other ones. I'll talk about what cryptocurrency is good for, some legal stuff to do with it. And then I'll also play a brief video clip and give you a brief demo on how to learn more before closing for questions. Okay, so first off, what is a cryptocurrency? Simply put, a cryptocurrency, it's digital assets in decentralized systems that allow for secure online payments. So a cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency that's secured by cryptography, which makes it nearly impossible to counterfeit or double spend. Many cryptocurrencies are decentralized networks based on blockchain technology. What a blockchain technology is a distributed ledger. So you could just think of it as a big long list of data, which is enforced by a network of computers around the world. A defining feature of cryptocurrencies is that they're generally not issued by any central authority, which renders them theoretically immune to government interference or manipulation. If that didn't really make too much sense, the key takeaway there is that a cryptocurrency is a form of digital asset based on a network that is distributed across a large number of computers. And basically, experts believe that blockchain and related technology will disrupt many industries, including finance and law, and that is why we're here to talk about it. So before I go into what is a digital currency, I thought I would point out the differences between the Canadian dollar, so like conventional money, versus digital currency. So fiat currency, or in other words, the Canadian dollar, for example, it's real money versus cryptocurrencies virtual. There are intermediaries with the Canadian dollar when you do a transaction. For example, you might have Visa processing fees in the middle. You might have Interac processing fees in the middle. There are people in between the steps from going from point A to B. With cryptocurrencies, it's peer-to-peer. It's device to device. So there's no intermediaries. Next, crypto is highly portable. You can bring it around with you anywhere, just wherever you have a device. With cash, it is portable, more portable than gold, for example, which is another type of money. But if you wanted to transport a large quantity of it, it would be difficult. Real money is durable. So durable as in like a banana can spoil, but banana isn't very durable. Real or Canadian dollars, you can rip them up if you want to. Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies are more durable than that. You can't just destroy them. Acceptance, Canadian dollars are accepted in Canada. You might have some difficulty if you want to send Canadian dollars over to India. Versus Bitcoin is global. You can just send it with an address. I can send from Canada to India in a second or in a few seconds. And then cryptocurrencies are more secure. They're more scarce. Usually with Canadian dollars, the government might go ahead and print infinite of it, as kind of we've seen with COVID. They've been printing a lot of money, so inflation has been going up. With crypto, there's usually a hard cap on how many coins can exist. Another big point is that Canadian dollars are not programmable. It's not smart money. Versus cryptocurrencies, you can actually program on top of them and use code on top of the money. Okay, so understanding how a crypto transaction might work. So if you wanted to send crypto to someone, you would open your Bitcoin wallet, you'd scan the person who you're sending it to's public address, you put in how much Bitcoin you want to send them to, you send it. That's all it takes on the user end. Then all of the computers all around the world, they work together using, in this case, the guy's name is Rob's private key. They'll share the transaction across the whole network. And once it's validated, which basically means once the computers solve a complicated puzzle to make sure that the transaction is valid, you'll get a confirmation, and then you'll have to wait a couple more minutes for your transaction to go through the loop a few more times. So usually it takes about 3 confirmations for a transaction to be confirmed. I would say this process takes 10 to 30 minutes, but you should be able to see that the Bitcoin was sent within like a few seconds. So how did cryptocurrencies arise? I argue that cryptocurrencies have emerged at a time when the role of the market in 2008 was very volatile, with economic volatility being debated and uncertain. There was turmoil over global economic policy, but I would say overall support for globalization and economic liberalism. So what do I mean by this? Particularly with Bitcoin, what's emerged from 2008 is a distrust of centralization, a distrust of financial institutions and other transacting parties. And really, it's a libertarian kind of ideology that has built up cryptocurrencies with little regard to the political or economic role of institutional actors in currency regulation. And basically, the cryptocurrency vision is a vision of globalization in which technology provides low entry costs and anonymity and cryptographic security. And I would say something that really goes to show kind of the secrecy of the crypto community is the founder of Bitcoin in 2008. His name is Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody actually knows who he is, which kind of echoes the privacy aspect of crypto. So this is a kind of complicated slide, so I'm going to really quickly go through it. But for those that are interested in how the technology works and where cryptography comes into play, really quickly, there's 3 different parts. First, initiation and broadcasting of the transaction. So the digital signatures and your private and public keys are encrypted. Second is validation of transactions. They use proof of work, which is a bunch of computers working together to solve complex problems, to validate your transaction and make sure that nobody can just fake a transaction. And then third is chaining blocks, which has to do with hash functions, which is very complicated. So I'm not going to bother talking about it. The reason why I made this slide is because some cryptocurrencies are more private than others. A lot of people think that Bitcoin, for example, is completely private. It's used for like criminal activities and stuff. People think that you can't trace it. But actually that's not true. If I have your public key, so let's say you send me money and I know that it's you, from now on, I can see every transaction that you do because it's available on a public ledger. Versus there are some new coins, for example, Zcash or Monero, which are completely private. And since they're completely private, it's kind of led to a raise of concerns with respect to anti-money laundering and law enforcement. So I guess this kind of will bring me into some quick bullets on the disadvantages of cryptocurrency, and then I will go ahead and expand on them. So first of all, hackers target crypto. Very highly sophisticated hackers will target exchanges specifically and other DeFi protocols. Bitcoin itself has never been hacked. A lot of cryptocurrencies are very difficult to hack. It's usually the exchange where you trade that gets hacked, or somebody's wallet gets hacked in that their password gets leaked by somebody stealing it or something like that. And what else? Price volatility is a big one. If you wanted to go buy a cup of coffee, you might end up paying a different amount in US dollars one week compared to the next, just because the price of Bitcoin is so volatile. Although I would argue recently it's become less volatile and more kind of dependent on the overall stock market, following kind of just like the tech sector, I would argue. And what else? A big one is high energy consumption for mining activities. Here in this graphic, you can see actually that Bitcoin at the bottom here uses 120 terawatt hours per year. That's actually more than the UAE and almost the same as Norway. So Bitcoin actually consumes almost basically as much energy as a country. And so this is a huge concern, especially because a lot of people are just using it for speculative investments and stuff. People are saying, oh, is this worth it? Especially with climate change and all that. So it's definitely a big concern. Yes, I think that covers that. Next is, what is blockchain? So here I wanted to make a quick pause. Blockchain is separate from cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency uses blockchain technology, but they're not one and the same. So essentially what a blockchain is it's a distributed ledger with decentralized control. Blockchains include blocks linked together into chains, and each chain consists of encrypted data made up in part of data from the previous block to create the encryption. And the key benefit of the blockchain technology would include three things, mainly encryption, provenance, and immutability. What encryption means is that it jumbles up data, making it unreadable without a key. So basically that means that basically means that nobody can access your crypto unless they have your private key. Second is provenance, which refers to a data trail ensuring validity and integrity of the data history. Essentially what that means is you can go back and check all the transactions that you've done. It's all available on a public ledger, which goes for the integrity of the data history. Anybody can go through and see it and make sure that there's no funny business going on. And then lastly is immutability, which means that data cannot change once a block becomes validated. I actually briefly spoke about programmable money. If you were to imagine, for example, that you programmed money to be lent out to somebody at 5% interest per month, if I were able to change that program to say 5% per year, then that would be completely different. And so that's why immutability is very different, that once something is broadcast on the blockchain, it can't be changed. Otherwise, the whole system would just get messed up. So what are the uses of blockchain? So as I said, the main use of blockchain that most people would be familiar with is cryptocurrency. So I put an image here of the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Each one of these uses a different form of blockchain technology to power it. What other uses are there? So experts say that blockchain technology can serve multiple industries, such as supply chain and processes such as online voting and crowdfunding. Financial institutions such as JP Morgan Chase, I also believe Bank of America, are testing the use of blockchain technology to lower transaction costs by streamlining payment processing. IBM is a huge player in the space as well. And there are lots of banks that use one token called XRP by the company Ripple for bank transactions, for large bank transactions. So now that we understand both crypto and blockchain, I do still find that the word blockchain elicits thoughts of cryptocurrency much of the time, which does disservice to this disruptive new technology. Although Bitcoin launched in 2011 and was the first large-scale implementation of blockchain technology, media, investors, and technologists have always talked about crypto for years, and folks incorrectly think that these technologies are one and the same. So for clarity, just to use a metaphor, cryptocurrencies are to blockchain what the combustion engine is to automobiles. So essentially they're different, but often blockchain is inside of cryptocurrency. Large companies like IBM, as I said, Walmart, Maersk, De Beers, and others have invested substantial money into blockchain to improve and secure their business worldwide, mostly through supply management.
Nathan, I think we're receiving a question from someone that you know. Eva Pell has a question, so I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Yes, please. Sorry if I'm going too fast.
I'm having technical difficulties here. No, it's going well. I'm sorry. I did not have a question. I was talking to Misha. It's all good.
Okay, he doesn't have a question, but I have a question.
Yep.
I'd love to learn more about, you were mentioning the disadvantages of crypto in general. Are there
Yep.
solutions to those disadvantages? Specifically, like, are there possible ways to reduce the energy consumption?
Yes, that's an amazing question. So first, on energy consumption, China, and I talk about it a little bit later, but China has banned all mining activities and transactions of crypto in China. And the main thing that they cited was the high energy consumption. And that was because in China, they were using a ton of coal to power their grid. So now that China is no longer part of this high energy consumption activity, and it's all mostly centered in North America, especially the US, they're using a lot more kind of renewable energy for it, a lot of like solar energy and stuff. I think Elon Musk was like a large proponent of that, of trying to get Bitcoin miners to switch to more green energy and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting better, but as it is today, it's still using a ton of energy. And then for some of the other points, for criminal activities, for example, it's something that people talk about a lot, but per year, there's less than $20 million worth of money laundered through crypto. So it's not really a massive concern. It's very difficult to launder huge swaths of crypto because you have to go through an exchange. And these exchanges now, they have something called KYC registration, know your customer registration. And so you have to give your ID, and like where you live and all that personal identification information, which wasn't really around a few years ago. So these criminal activities are definitely decreasing, especially with Bitcoin. I would say there are some other cryptocurrencies like Monero and Zcash where it's very difficult. And there's another one called Tornado Cash, which is pretty sophisticated for money laundering. But I think the main thing with money laundering and criminal activity is that the government will catch you. It's just it's a question of time, because every transaction is recorded on the public ledger. So the government, the CRA, can go and track all your transactions. It's just a matter of how much money and time they want to invest into it. And I'm sure that over the next few years, there's going to be some regulations and stuff coming out, and there's going to be software that they develop and there's already software developed to kind of track this stuff. So I hope that answers your question. Where was I? Here, yeah. So basically, my main point with this slide was just saying that there's a ton of companies using blockchain technology that aren't just speculating on the price of cryptocurrencies. They're actually using it for many things. And some are in different stages. This is a little bit of an old graphic, but there are many more actually now with stuff in production. Sorry, I skipped a few slides. Here I am. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to give you some quick bullets on the advantages of cryptocurrency, and then I'll expand on them. So the main one is fast, safe, and cheap money transfers. Second is ease of use and highly portable money. Third is untraceable money, so you can kind of maintain anonymity. It's transparent and neutral. It's decentralized. There's active involvement from a very large community. There's fewer risks for merchants because one thing with Canadian dollars, for example, is there's chargebacks on credit cards, or if you do like a wrong bank transfer or something like that, they can be reversed. With cryptocurrency, they can't be reversed. What's done is done. That's the main feature, is that it's immutable. So if you're a merchant accepting Bitcoin, you won't deal with any chargebacks. And then last is low inflation and collapse risk. So for example, for Bitcoin, there's only 21 million of them. There never will be any more. And so there's no inflation, versus with Canadian dollars, they can theoretically print infinite of them. And I would say another advantage, which isn't really an advantage, but a lot of people have been taking to advantage, is cryptocurrency investments can generate significant profits. So it's not financial advice, but cryptocurrency markets have skyrocketed in value over the past decade, at one point reaching almost $2 to $3 trillion. And I believe Bitcoin represents usually about 50% of that market cap. So I think it topped at like $1.5 trillion. So it's a very legit asset, like about the same size as a really big company like Microsoft and Apple and stuff like that. Okay, so now types of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the most popular and valuable cryptocurrency.
I'm just going to stop you quickly before you get into this new topic. Marvin has a question.
Yes.
Okay, this is Janet. Marvin's question is this. I have the same concern. So Bitcoin is limited, and that to 21 million, whatever it is, and that deals with the issue of inflation. But what about all the new currencies that keep coming out? Doesn't that just create a bigger pool overall and have the same potential of being inflationary? Because if there aren't any more Bitcoins around, there's going to be Ethereum, there's going to be something else. So in the Bitcoin space, we can still have the potential for inflation in general.
Yes, that is a very good question. I will first give you my opinion on it, which is, and pardon my language, that almost every coin not named Bitcoin and Ethereum is a shitcoin. And most people use them as speculative vehicles, and they don't really have a ton of real world usage. Actually, I should rephrase that. In the top 100 of coins in the top market caps, so like the 100 biggest coins, most of them have utilities, but then as you go on, they just start to become like Bitcoin Lite, Bitcoin, whatever. And there's not really a big community behind it. And I think that's really what Bitcoin is kind of advocating itself as, is the #1 store of value, as, you know, the first cryptocurrency, and that kind of digital gold, whereas all these other cryptocurrencies aren't perceived in that manner. And there have been since, so Bitcoin launched in I think the white paper was 2009 and maybe it launched in 2011. And since then, it's never been hacked or anything like that, but there's been tons and tons of forks, which basically means that a certain part of the Bitcoin community has said, okay, let's copy all of the Bitcoin code and make a new Bitcoin, and we'll call it Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision or Bitcoin Diamond or Bitcoin Gold or all these other different versions of the same thing. And all of them have failed. All of them have failed. So that's what I would say on that. Yeah. So yeah, Bitcoin is the most popular and valuable, and yeah, I hope that answers your question. I hope that answers your question. I don't know that
Yeah,
many of these. Yeah,
it-
sorry, go ahead.
still, I think it's still a market share perception problem. That's true for now, but I'd still be wanting to be very vigilant in looking for another competitor coming along, because it is possible for that to be disrupted. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it won't.
Totally. No, I do agree with you. And I guess I should rephrase that. Bitcoin's definitely been disrupted by like Ethereum and a ton of the other large smart contract platforms. Yeah. I wish I had a better, let me think about it more, and I'll come up with a better answer later. Okay, so from where I left off, yeah, so there are thousands of cryptocurrencies present in the market today, and each cryptocurrency claims to have a different function and specification. So for example, the second biggest cryptocurrency after Bitcoin is called Ethereum. And Ethereum markets itself as gas for its underlying smart contract platform, or in other words, its programmable money platform. Ripple's XRP is used by banks to facilitate transfers between different geographies. Then there are, as I said, some of the clones or forks of Bitcoin, and others that are created from scratch that don't have any Bitcoin code in them. So some examples include Solana, Litecoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and the aggregate value of all cryptocurrencies in existence has reached over $3 trillion. And Bitcoin has almost always rotated between 40 to 50% dominance of that total value. And so, as I was talking about before, the code behind Bitcoin is from like 2011. So I guess when I'm answering that question on what happens if there's like the next big thing, like the next Bitcoin that's better and more popular and all that, there have been updates to Bitcoin since its launch, but not really enough today to scale it for worldwide use. Like to be scalable for worldwide use, you need to be able to do as many transactions per second as, say, a Visa credit card could do, which I believe is like over 24,000. And today, Bitcoin, just its base layer does something like 3 transactions per second. So it's like a lot slower. So this is where on the screen is coming this first layer, second layer thing. So first layer would be just Bitcoin, or first layer would be just Ethereum. And then if somebody is building on top of that first layer, then we call that layer 2 scaling. So for Bitcoin, people have built second layer scaling to help with higher throughput, make it more secure, decentralized, lessen the load on the code, make it more scalable and faster. And what this is called is the Bitcoin Lightning Network. It's still in development. So yeah, so this Bitcoin Lightning Network is going to be, I guess, it's going to be marketed, I guess, as like the altcoin killer, because all these other coins that are saying that they're faster than Bitcoin and all that, and Bitcoin's outdated, won't be able to say that anymore with this layer 2 on top of it. And then I should also mention that Ethereum has a similar thing kind of going on, where it's very expensive right now to transact on it. The gas prices to transact with it are very high. And so there's this layer 2 called Polygon, which helps with transaction fees and stuff like that. So yeah, I just thought that that was worth mentioning that it's a very new space, so they're constantly developing the technology behind it. So yeah, this is what I call my pool of altcoins. So at the top there, you have your store of value, Bitcoin as digital gold. You have in the middle here, you have, or in the middle bottom, you have digital currency. First one being XRP as the enterprise payment settlement network. You've got Ethereum as programmable money, the smart contracts. You've got XLM, which is kind of a Ripple clone for fast international payments. And then what's really interesting is you've got something called USDT Tether, which is a stable coin, which is essentially backed by the US dollar. So one USDT token is worth $1 US. So if you wanted to sell your Bitcoin, you could sell it for US dollar tokens, for example. So a lot of people use that to hedge. And also very interestingly, governments have started to catch on to this idea of a stable coin, and they're thinking of launching something called a central bank digital currency, which I believe will probably replace the Canadian dollar, US dollar, the yuan in China and stuff like that. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to leverage the power of blockchain technology and just create their own nationally endorsed crypto coin for money. So basically, I believe we'll be using Canadian dollars as but they're going to be migrated onto the blockchain. And lots of governments around the world are experimenting with that now. And there are a lot of investments as well to try and capitalize on that. And then here you have as well like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, which are Bitcoin clones. I would say according to this guy named Craig Wright's vision, who's just a guy who said that he's Satoshi Nakamoto, but it's been unproven. And so he was able to take a large base of the Bitcoin base and say, no, this is how we should be running Bitcoin, except he's been wildly unsuccessful at it and lost billions of dollars and stuff like that in court. And then you've got Litecoin, which is a fast, popular Bitcoin clone. You've got Dogecoin, which you might have heard about from Elon Musk, which is a meme coin turned microtransactions, which is actually just a Litecoin fork. So it's literally the same code as Litecoin. And then you also have some more utility tokens, like for example, Filecoin, which offers decentralized cloud storage and processing. So Filecoin would compete against like Amazon Web Services, for example. So Amazon Web Services, I guess, would be more of like a centralized kind of platform for cloud storage and processing. And then Filecoin would be a more decentralized version of the same thing. So there are lots of businesses that are trying, or lots of coins that are trying to replace like real world utilities like that, such as Filecoin, and also this one called VET. VeChain, for example, is very good for example, if you're buying a used car, you don't really know what's happened to that car, how many accidents it's been in, where the parts are coming from, where the parts have been replaced, which mechanic operated on it, and stuff like that. So in Asia, VeChain is working really hard on putting all that information on the blockchain, so that when you go to buy a used car, for example, you can actually see like, oh, the engine was developed in Germany and then shipped to Canada, and then some mechanic worked on it with this and put this in it and stuff like that. So it's cool, the different stuff you can do with cryptocurrencies.
Nathan, we have a question in the chat. If someone accepts a payment or receives money in cryptocurrency, can you then put the money into your bank account at, for example, Royal Bank?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can withdraw directly to your bank account through the exchange. You will have to pay tax on that transaction, capital gains tax. If you're curious on how the whole process with buying cryptocurrency, selling cryptocurrency for real dollars and stuff like that works, I don't actually really talk about it in this presentation. So I actually do have a document on how to do that, so I can share it with you after the presentation, exactly how that works. It's actually very simple. It's honestly just like a few clicks of a mouse or a few clicks of your finger on the touch screen just to really hit like sell, and then you hit withdraw to bank account, put your bank account in, and then hit withdraw, and then you get your money, you get your dollars. And then there's also the other way where if you don't want to hold Bitcoin, for example, because you think it's going to go down, you can sell it for that stable coin like USDT. That stable coin will be worth whatever the Bitcoin's worth in US dollars and stay at that. So you don't have to be worried about like the volatility of Bitcoin when you trade. And now I'm going to give you a live demo of coinmarketcap.com. So in case you guys are interested about learning a little bit more about any of these coins that I spoke about, you can go to this website, coinmarketcap.com. You can actually see all the cryptocurrencies. They're ranked by the most valuable to the least valuable. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see how many pages there are. You see, I'm on page 1 of 9,891. So if I skip to like the very end, you can see I'm on like the 9,000. There's like over 9,000 coins, right? So it's kind of hard to go through that. If you are interested in learning more, I would just stick to this page number 1, going through like the top 10, maybe the top 25, maybe top 100 if you have a ton of time. But yeah, that's basically, oh yeah, I wanted to show you. So for example, let's say after you listen to this presentation, you're like, hey, I want to learn more about Bitcoin, or I want to learn more about Ethereum. You can actually hit Ethereum here, for example. And then I can, right here, I can go to their website. I can join their different communities, so I can see their different blogs that they have. I can see their Twitter. I can see their Reddit community. I can see the source code if I'm a technical person. This is the most important one, I would say, is the white paper. So if I open this one up, I can actually like read everything about Ethereum if I want. And then if I scroll down here, it also just gives me a brief description of everything. So like, what is Ethereum? Who are the founders? What makes it unique? Goes into like the history of Ethereum and different conflicts that happen with it. Talks about the future of Ethereum, how it's secured, stuff like that. So there's tons of information here on this website. So I thought I would point it out. Okay, and then so the last thing that I want to talk about is cryptocurrency legal? So fiat currencies like the Canadian dollar, they derive their authority as mediums of transaction from the government or monetary authorities. So for example, each Canadian dollar bill you have would be backstopped by Federal Reserve. So like it would have like the Queen stamp on it, basically saying that it's official. But cryptocurrencies aren't backed by any public or private entities. And therefore it's been difficult to make a case for their legal status in different financial jurisdictions around the world. So for example, I'll start by talking about in Canada. So in Canada, cryptocurrencies are not recognized as legal tender. So I can't buy Starbucks with Bitcoin. But there are 6 to 7 Bitcoin ETFs. So you can actually buy spot ETF, not like a derivative of Bitcoin or anything like that. And you can hold it in, I know that you guys probably have an RSP or TFSA or whichever other accounts you have. China actually, okay, wait, actually, before I finish talking about Canada, so although cryptocurrencies aren't considered a form of money in the US and Canada, they're treated as a financial asset or property. And as with most other investments, if you reap capital gains in selling or trading the cryptocurrency, the government will want a piece of the profits. So recently, I think actually just a couple months ago in December, taxpayers in Canada were required to self-report any cryptocurrency transaction of and above $1,000. And then how exactly the CRA would tax those proceeds as capital gains or ordinary income depends on how long the taxpayer held the cryptocurrency. I might be wrong about this, but I believe that if you hold it for longer than a year, then it's taxed differently. And then other than that, the CRA generally treats crypto like a commodity for purposes of the Income Tax Act. Taxpayers have to establish if a crypto activity results in income or capital gains, and each type of cryptocurrency, so for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, etc., is considered to be a separate digital asset and must be valued separately. And then what else in terms of legal stuff? China actually, as I said, has banned cryptocurrency exchanges and mining completely within its borders. In the European Union, they're legal. They qualify as financial instruments to trade. In the US, crypto derivatives exist, such as Bitcoin futures, which are available on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, but it's important to note that you're trading a derivative of Bitcoin. You're not actually trading the underlying asset being Bitcoin itself. So you're not owning any spot Bitcoin. You're just like owning I honestly don't really know how to explain derivatives properly, but I believe it's like something to do with you're using dollars actually, and speculating on price. The SEC and the Securities Exchange Commission in the US has actually said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, which is really good for regulation so far. And then in terms of legal tender, El Salvador is the only country in the world to allow Bitcoin as legal tender for monetary transactions. I actually left one off, which is Japan, if you're interested. They actually define Bitcoin as legal property, which is pretty cool. And now I'm going to go ahead and let Misha play the Bitcoin is Freedom clip from the Bitcoin 2022 conference. It's a 2-minute long clip that we're going to play. The entire video is actually 1 hour long. So I can send it to you if you'd like. It might be better than listening to me.
Okay, I'm going to play a second of it. I'm going to confirm that everyone can hear it, and then I'll start it over again.
Bitcoin is worthless.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm starting it over. Is it full screen?
No.
Okay, let me make it full screen.
No.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold. I think I should say honestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization.
This is just a beanie baby that runs on coal. You know, I agree. I would chart it if there was an easy way to do it.
These men all share one thing in common. They are all citizens of advanced economies with property rights, free speech, a functioning legal system, and stable reserve currencies. Only 13% of our planet's population is born into this.
Is there any chance for a deal in these talks today between Russia and Ukraine?
The other 87% are born in a country with a weak currency or authoritarian regime. These critics are missing the big picture. Anyone with access to the internet can participate in Bitcoin. It runs on a network that does not discriminate. While Western headlines focus on Coinbase going public and tech growth getting fabulously rich,
More than double the company's valuation.
with the reason revolution happening worldwide. For Gates, Munger, and Buffett, Bitcoin is what poison spread.
The price sits above 50,000 now. Where do you think it's going?
But for Ira from Nigeria, Mo from Sudan, and Carl from Ethiopia, Bitcoin is much more.
I'm hopeful for Nigeria's future. I've seen Bitcoin's potential firsthand. Bitcoin allowed us to fight SARS, a notorious unit of the Nigerian police with a long record of abuses. In October 2020, I joined the Feminist Coalition, which began accepting donations via Flutterway, a fintech product. This started off well enough, but then the regime started cracking down. Our bank accounts were shuttered. Bitcoin was the only option left. There was no other way to receive, store, and spend money. This was an eye-opening moment. We ended up setting up a BTC Pay server to process donations from around the world.
Most entrepreneurs don't have.
Yeah, that's the end of it. That's
That's the end? Okay, good. Perfect.
Okay. And sorry, is my screen sharing?
No.
Okay, 1 second.
Now it is.
Cool. It's kind of funny that I guess I should have thought of a better transition, but now it's thank you and time for questions. And yeah, and feel free to email me with any questions. I can definitely think through some of the questions that were asked more and get back to you on them.
Nathan Hinda has a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I have a question that's somewhat related to the one that Janet asked earlier with regard to you had mentioned that Bitcoin is finite. It can't increase. So therefore, unlike, the Canadian dollar where the government can print more money, it's capped. But, by having it capped, the value can still go up because people, will pay more. And so there's a lot of fluctuation in the value. So I don't see why that's particularly advantageous.
I see. Yeah. I think the main benefit of having a limited supply is the decentralized aspect of it, that you're basically taking decisions of how much of the currency exists out of the hands of a central authority. So with Canada, there's a certain amount of circulating money and they can keep increasing it. And, we can vote about like who represents us and stuff like that. But really, we don't really have much say in how much more money they can add to the supply. So with Bitcoin, just with 21 million, since we know that there will never be any more, once miners and exchanges kind of start to run low on their supply of Bitcoin, is when you really see the price start to come up. And since now we just passed 19 million Bitcoin mined, there's only about 2 million left. And the competition to acquire the remaining 2 million is super intense, with some really big companies going after that market share. Yeah, I think the simple answer to your question is just that it controls inflation. It's just a predictable way of predicting how much will be out there and valuing it based on that.
So was that the reason why it was capped? Specifically
Yes.
for inflation purposes? Specifically
to prevent inflation.
Nathan, do you
Thank
mind
you.
stopping sharing your screen, and then we'll be able to see everyone's lovely faces?
Yep.
Perfect. Carrie, I see you have a question.
Hi. It's
hi.
I'm sorry. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Misha. So I've heard like news stories of like Bitcoin being like Bitcoin wallets like being stolen. Do you know how like someone could prevent that, basically?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And it's one that I honestly wish that I put in this presentation, how to buy and how to sell and how to securely store your crypto. So the way that most people get hacked is straight up. So there's a private key, which is a string of words. I think like 28 random words. And if people have access to those 28 random words, then they have access to your whole account. So the easiest way to get hacked would be for somebody to find where you store it. So where would you store that private key? Some people store it on paper and pen, just leave it down on their desk or in a file. So somebody could hack you just by taking out that piece of paper and putting in the password. That's the most common way you get hacked, from people that you know. So to leave around a significant amount in cryptocurrency out in the open is not wise. The second way that people store cryptocurrency is on your computer. So And within your computer, there's two ways. I guess offline, you could just have it as a document on your computer, or you could have it online where you actually are backing up your code, your key on the cloud. And so that's where a lot of people also get hacked, is basically if somebody hacks into your computer, then they can get your private key. Or if somebody, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but if somebody got access to your Google Drive account, for example, like they hacked into your email, and you stored your key there, then they have programs and stuff like that that would sift through all your files and find your key. So now where that leads me to is what's the best practice for storing your crypto to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And oh wait, I actually missed one more, which is getting hacked from the exchange. So if you're buying crypto from an exchange, like Binance or Coinbase or something like that, then that exchange itself could get compromised. And usually those exchanges have some sort of like FDIC insurance or something like that, which will allow you to get your money back eventually. But yeah, that's another risk is most people, some people will store all their crypto on the exchange, and then that exchange will get hacked. For example, Mt. Gox, or there was another one called Quadrica in Canada, and people lost all their money and they're waiting on lawsuits and stuff like that. And it's been this whole long thing. So it's a pretty popular practice in crypto to not store too much money on an exchange. It's common practice to just store a little bit, just the amount you need to do active trades and stuff like that. But okay, anyway, so the way that you should store it, the best way to store it is with something called a cold storage key, which the two most popular ones are one called Ledger Nano S, and there's another one that I forget off the top of my head. But basically, it's like a USB stick, a fancy USB stick that you plug into your computer, and you can trade crypto from it and store from it. And the only way that somebody can hack into you is if they have that USB stick. And basically it's offline, so it's impossible to get hacked unless somebody actually takes that physical key from you. So people will store this key in their homes in a safe, or they'll store this key in a bank safe, for example. Although that second point, just due to the nature of the whole libertarian nature of most people in crypto, they're scared to give their private keys to the banks just because of what happened with gold in, I think, like the 1970s, where in the US, they, like, I think it was, who was it, Roosevelt or something, who forced everybody to sell their gold to the government for like $21 a troy ounce or something like that. So people don't really want to store it with banks, but I mean, I think it's fine. So yeah, the best way to do it is through a cold storage key is the short answer.
Okay, thank you again. Great presentation. Hi, Apel family.
We're all loving it.
Sorry, my dog started barking. I have another question. Marvin is interested in knowing whether Bitcoin and cold wallets creates artificial scarcity.
Yeah, that's a great question. For sure it does. And I guess I kind of talked about that a little bit with exchange supply shocks. Price goes up a lot when exchanges run out of Bitcoin to sell to people. And so if everybody takes their crypto from their exchanges, and people will have like millions of dollars on the exchange, and they put it into their cold wallet, then the exchange will struggle to sell Bitcoin to people. Because basically what they do is when you have funds on their exchange, they'll loan out your money to other people and stuff like that. And so they can't really maintain that those operations if they have a very limited supply of Bitcoin to work with. So for sure, if you move it off of exchange into your cold wallet, then it creates artificial scarcity. And there's also a huge artificial scarcity with the, just like since 2011, since it started trading at like $0. So people didn't really care about their crypto. They forgot their private keys. They lost their private keys. They destroyed their computers. They wiped their computers. And they might have had hundreds of Bitcoin on their thing that they mined for virtually free. And many of these coins are lost to, like, nobody knows. They're basically, most people just say that they're never going to be found again. So Satoshi, the founder of Bitcoin, has about a million Bitcoin, which is like 5% of the entire supply, which hasn't moved since its creation. So most people have basically left those coins for dead. And then there's about another million Bitcoin, which people say is lost. So there's about 2 million of the entire supply, which is of 21 million, which are lost. And so I think as more holders of Bitcoin come into the fray, for sure that creates scarcity if you put it onto your cold wallet. I think like proponents of Bitcoin will always tell you to move your Bitcoin onto your cold wallet, and if you don't, then you don't actually own your crypto, is what they'll say.
Okay, we just received another question from Elisa. Thanks so much. So nice to see you. She said that someone came to her recently to help him sue to get his Bitcoin back because it was stolen by a stranger. He doesn't know who it was that took the Bitcoin. Is there litigation about this? You said that the police do not assist. Is this, or sorry, he said that the police do not assist. Is this true in your knowledge?
Yes, it's true. It's true. Unfortunately, once you're hacked or lost your keys or something like that, it's basically impossible to recover them. If there's a large hack, like for example, last week, there was the biggest crypto hack ever on this platform called Axie Infinity. And they stole $600 million from the exchange. So a massive sum like that, they can get legal people involved. They'll actually broadcast that address and make it so that no crypto exchange will accept funds from it. So if this guy with $600 million tries to go to Coinbase and sell their crypto on their exchange, they won't be allowed to. So it's like a blacklisted address. So the biggest thing that legal people can do is blacklist that address. But unfortunately, with the nature of crypto, you can just trade peer-to-peer. So you can do like an OTC, over-the-counter transaction just with somebody that guy knows in person. So for the client that you're dealing with, I'm not sure how much money it is, but like, let's say it's like $10,000 or something like that. They're probably not going to flag that address, but if it's in like the millions, then they probably will. But in terms, yeah, that's as much as my knowledge goes for pursuing legal activity, but largely it's like virtually impossible, and these conflicts get drawn out over like years and years. Yeah, there's lots of different class action lawsuits for. I would point you to the Quadrico one in Canada, but that's from an exchange. I'm not really sure if there's been any precedent with somebody stealing crypto from somebody, especially if they don't know who it is, but I can look into that more.
Nathan, a quick follow-up from Eva Pell. If Bitcoin can be traced, does that mean that the thief can be found? If like it was sold to someone else, would you be able to follow through that code? Okay, yeah, good point. I left that out. So thanks for asking that. Yes. So here's the thing with Bitcoin is people think it's a hub for criminal activity, but once you've associated an address with your personal identification, which I think over the 95% probably of addresses are now, because like basically when you sign up with Coinbase or CoinSquare or any of these other exchanges in Canada or the US, you have to give them your ID. And once you give them your ID, they have that on their file and they are obligated, it's a regulation thing globally now that they have to report that those IDs and stuff to the government. And so the government will come after you for tax purposes if you don't report it. And the government will also persecute you if you happen to interact with an address that you did know your customer verification with, then they will. So yeah, for the person, for Elisa's case,
if that address has ever interacted, received or sent crypto from a exchange, then it's very likely that you'll be able to trace that person to the original founder. However, if that address, and it's called, the term for it is called, I think like blank Bitcoin or something like that, which basically means that it's called unmarked Bitcoin, which means that nobody knows who's been behind those coins. In that case, there's nothing you can do about it because it's totally anonymous, basically. But otherwise, since everything's on the public ledger, if you report that the scam to the exchange that it happened on, then they'll be able to find that person and prosecute them. And it's happened quite a few times this year with different NFT scams, especially.
I think Eve has a quick follow-up before we wrap up.
Yeah, actually, there was a Hamilton connection recently where this boy was charged, and I think what they were doing is that they were stealing keys and stealing cryptocurrency from people's phones. They would have software that you sort of walk by and steal, but I guess in Elisa's question, if the person doesn't know who stole it, first you have to find the person to sue or to pursue. And I think maybe there is a way. So they found a lot of it, but it was like a really, 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 really big theft, right? They stole it from one or two people. They stole in tens or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And so enough resources were put in place to find. And at some point, people that stole it weren't very careful and they began to spend it, and they were traced to that big hack. So first you have to find who stole it, then pursue them, right? So I think because Bitcoin is traceable, right, Nathan?
That
was a recent Hamilton connection to this, so that's interesting.
Yeah. I think the main point here is to avoid all this stuff, to make sure that your crypto doesn't get stolen, especially if you're dealing with like a significant position size, would be to just use a cold wallet. I've never heard of anybody getting hacked using a cold wallet. Yeah, I think that's just the main point. And then, I mean, there's another thing you can do to be super careful. So like you said, they happen to walk by somebody and it stole their Bitcoin from them. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but probably something to do with like NFC technology or something like that. But to avoid something like that, don't store your crypto on your phone. Don't log into any of your crypto apps on your phone, and buy a second computer if you already have another computer, and only use that computer for crypto transactions. Do not click on any link never use the computer for anything except crypto stuff, and you will never get hacked. Because the main hack on computers is something called keystroke logging. So you'll click on a bad link from someone, like a random link on the internet, and then they'll be able to track every keystroke you do on your keyboard. And so then when you go ahead on your computer and you type in your password to your Bitcoin wallet, well, now they have your key as well. So if you want to avoid that, you can, who cares if they know what you're typing everything, if you have a second computer where you do everything on. But yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we are at the end of our allotted time. So thank you so much, Nathan. That was so interesting. Somehow you even taught me, the person you haven't been able to teach for years, what this is. So it was really great. We will be taking a bit of a pause from the Next Generation Breakfast Club series because of the great holiday of Passover that we all know is coming up. So we will be returning to the series on May 15th, and Barry Levitt will be talking about his work in the film industry. And then we will come back the following week. Daniel Konikoff will talk about his PhD in cybercrime. And our last week of May will be Ben Krieger. He's going to talk about his work as an actual rocket scientist. So we hope that you're all able to join us back when we resume these lovely sessions in May. And I guess that's the end. And Pesach Sameach to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.